Hey, it's Doom here from Dungeons and Doom Biscuit, and I have a piece of cut-off foam I found, like Cap stepped on into the concrete of the floor, and I got a knife and kind of chopped it up a little bit. And I think what I want to make today is an altar, like a sacrificial altar. In the Tomorrow Comes Doom, a Time for Legends game, there is a concept where you can perform rituals, and some of these rituals do require sacrifices and stuff. So even though they're not really for evil characters, sometimes sacrificing goats and things like that, which were done in modern history, in real history, and aren't necessarily nice things, well, those were things that actually happened. And there were even human sacrifices done by people who didn't consider themselves to be evil. But we're not doing this for humans. We're just making a sacrificial altar where you would sacrifice, animals and such. So let's start with cleaning that up and looking at that. And we need something to use as like a piece of fabric or leather, maybe. This is a little thick. Let me see if I have something thinner. Not laying here. So let's just go with what we got. Whatever I find laying close to us, we'll use. Rubber gloves. Nope, that's not going to work. All right, we're going to use, survey says, I think I have some foam in my drawer. Nope, I took it out. The foam in this drawer. No, I took it out. Darn me. All right, well, I don't know what we're going to use yet, but we're going to make a little sacrificial knife of some sort. And we're going to put it on the thing here. And let me see what I got in my little weapons bins. Do I have any little knives that we can just use, or do we need to make one? Well, you guys might not have one, so let's make a little knife. That's too easy. So to make a knife, all you need are comb forks or teeth or whatever they're called, and the back end of a brush. You know, like our brush, like a hairbrush, has these little things that brush your hair. So if your significant other or yourself or a neighbor doesn't need their brush anymore, or if you want to go to the Dollar Tree and grab one, you can do that. And we'll make the little sacrificial knife first. I need some super glue and some baking soda. Alright, so the first step of making our knife is going to be to get a tray to work with so we don't lose our pieces. This is just a lid of a dice box that I got some dice in for a present. So let's get a blade. Whoops. And a handle. And let's get a piece of cardboard. Oh, I have something right here we can use. Okay. I have a little piece of playing card I was using in the last video right here. So what we want to do is get a little bit of glue. This is gel glue. For this stuff, it is easier to work with, as much as I hate it. We're going to need forceps. Sorry, tweezers. Because this is tiny, very tiny. We're going to make our knife first. So our glue's right there. We're going to get our knife blade. We're going to dip it in that glue. And we're going to rub it all over this so that they have a connection point. We're going to dip that knife blade right into this baking soda real easy. And get that on, that blade on to that handle. We're going to let that sit for a minute, okay? We're just going to set it right there and let it dry. Not on the glue. We'll put that off to the side. When that's dry, we'll put that back in here so we don't lose it. So we have our base. We need glue. We're not done with our baking soda yet. We want that to sit about right there. So let's get this covered with some super glue. And get a piece of cardboard to stir that around. Ideally, you want this this coated part to use as your spatula. It makes it easier. You just want to stir that around. Get it all in there, up to the edges if you have to. We just want to dip this in glue, or in baking soda. All right. If you have an old toothbrush to use to clean this off, go ahead and throw it on your shop floor real quick, and then get a couple stones. So we know this, we want this to sit about right there, right? Up a little further so we can put a miniature there if we need to. And let's put a couple stones on the ground here to just add some interest to this base. We don't want this to be like the super focus of our base, but we do want it to be something to paint and something that's like a little bit noticeable of a feature. So let's put a big one here, a big one there, and a little one there. Let's get that out of the way, or that's going to get melted by the glue. Put our rocks away. And then we can just put the tiniest drop of glue on these bad boys and let it soak over them. Okay. So if you want to break that surface tension, just get that little tool you just made and pop that surface tension so it runs down onto the base like that. There you go. And it'll soak around that rock, and then in a moment that'll be held in place forever. And that's what we want. So let's come back and look at this altar. We need some kind of cloth or something to put on here, or something that looks like a piece of leather. So we have some options, and I think because I can't see anything laying on the floor that I can find easily, which has become like my new storage, I think what we're going to do is get a piece of fabric. So if your kids have old clothes that they grew out of or that are no good and that you can't give them away, you are going to have tons and tons of old clothes to cut up. So here is a pair of pants that I've used for painting and stuff. And we're going to cut this into our cloth, I think. Yeah, that's what we'll do. So this doesn't have to be perfect. And if you're like me, that's too long. And you know this has been laying out in the weather. You don't want it to be a perfect square. So get something you have. Well, this is not flammable material at all. These kid clothes are sturdier than adult clothes for sure. There we go. Something like that. You see that smoke coming off there? That's exactly perfect. Okay. One more side to do on this. And I think it's going to be how we want it to be. Okay, let's set that off to the side and make sure that it's not hot, so we don't want this to melt. Let's dry fit it. Maybe something like that. I think that'll do it. Let's just make a little line down here and stick that in place this way. Okay. Then we'll just get the tips and see where they go. We'll just get a little dab and throw it in there. Okay. Not bad. All right. Now we got some little wispies. I call them spider webs most of the time. All right, let's see how this thing's doing up here. Looks like it's dry. So let's get that and dry fit it. We know what we want to sit about right there, so let's get a little bit of glue on here. Now we know we can't paint this in with spray paint, okay? And the reason we can't do that is because it will melt our table. So I'm just going to get this. I'm going to get a little dab of glue here, where I want that to sit, and hope it doesn't melt my stuff underneath. And I'm just going to get my get a pair of tweezers here, forceps or whatever. I'm going to set that blade in place and just kind of mush it down into that glue. And let's let that sit for a second. This is definitely the design we wanted. Something like this that's going to look nice. I don't know why I have this out. We're not using that. All right, so as that dries, we need to get this coated with paint. And I have some paint laying here that we can use. No, I don't. Never mind. Ignore me. Let's get some paint and Mod Podge mixed real quick. So this is a little sturdy. Let me get a lid. Mod Podge. I have my giant tub of Mod Podge, but for stuff like this, it's very hard to get just a little bit for what we need. So we're just going to get a little bit of Mod Podge in there. And you can wipe those spoons off and save them, or if they're cheap and you can afford them, you can toss them. It's up to you. I'll wipe some Mod Podge off my hand. Get some black paint. There we go. Something to stir with. There we go. All right, so just get a cheapy brush. It's going to give us some decent coverage. This is kind of small, but it'll work. And let's paint this bad boy. Now, if you didn't have roughed up, been on the concrete garage floor piece of pink foam, well, you know what you got to do. You got to rough it up. Mine's been kicked around and stepped on, so it's a little more ready for this kind of adventure. You want to get down in all the holes, all the cracks. It's a good coat. Not too thick because you want it to be able to dry soon so you can work. But thick enough that it's covering all the undercolors. The less we have to paint to make this a good project, the better. If we have to spend a whole day painting and drying and painting and fighting with it, well, that's not a lot of fun. But if we get something cool quick, that's the secret to success. If you don't have, that's coming up there. I didn't glue that well enough, but that's okay. We'll just shove it down with the Mod Podge. Get that under there and do the same. If you don't have combs and brushes to tear apart, I recommend you pinch the $3 to go down to Dollar Tree and get that stuff. Because the amount of weapons you can make with those spears and swords and daggers and whatever, I mean, it's worth it. And if you get like, some combs are kind of fancy and have like these weird gaps, and you can make scimitars out of them real easy for like your terrain and stuff, or weapons racks or whatever have you have going on. Do that, man. It's worth it. It really is. Like, you might say, oh, I don't want to spend the money, but $3 to have unlimited handles and crap, it's a good deal. It really is. And I'm not an advocate for spending money if you've been watching. I'm the cheapest dude we know, but let's get that brush cleaned out. All right, let's look what we got here. So you got the altar with a knife on it and that cloth across it. And we need to hit this with a hair dryer so we can move on to the next part. That's good enough. Doesn't have to be perfect. Let's get our brown that we use for everything in our brush, and let's do the ground. We don't want to get the rocks, and we don't want to hit the altar a whole bunch. So we just want to paint the ground. And we can, I usually do these outer edges in black, but since I got baking soda all over it today, rushing, I think we're just going to paint it brown and call that a win too. So you want to get your first coat of brown down. Remember, dirt is not one color, so we're going to have to come back and hit that with another color later. And even though nobody's probably going to see underneath here, I'm just going to drag that brown around there for a little peace of mind. Getting the cracks. All right, cool. That's kind of what we wanted there, something like that. Let's get our dark gray. And this is that pavement that I use all the time. And I love this color. I use this for like everything, dudes. Okay. We want to paint our rocks. Oops. Got a little bit on the side of that there. You don't have to be perfect, just paint them. If you get a little bit on the ground, that's okay too, I think. Sweet. Let's get this altar painted gray. If you get a little bit on the fabric, that's okay, but you probably don't want to get a bunch on there, I'm guessing. And if you do miss some of these parts of this, where the black is, I don't think it's going to kill you, but I think it'll look better if you got it all in this dark pavement color. Or whatever dark gray you're using. Or maybe your altar is brown. Or maybe it's made out of magical rock that's glowing purple. Who knows? Your altar is your altar. Okay. Starting to come together here. There we go. Something like that. Let's look at it. See, we're getting there. All right, now we got to do a base coat on that cloth. So I got another color here. I'm going to switch to a brush smaller to try to get the least amount of this brown on the non-brown spots that I can help. I don't know, since I used real fabric, how that's going to spread. So I'm just going to take my time. Get underneath the knife and stuff too. When I hit the edges of the tapestry or the material or fabric or whatever this is on the altar, I'm going to be careful and try not to get it on the gray paint. If I do, I do. I don't think a little bit's going to kill us. Yep. This might end up being pretty cool. Or it might end up being pretty dumb. We won't know. So it's not perfect coverage, and that's okay. We don't need it to be perfect. We need it to be ballpark. Because you know what? Back in the medieval forests of your fantasy world, they were not coming out here in the forest and making sure that everything looked brand new and uniform and perfect. I know you'd like to think they were, but these druids or these shamans or whoever were doing this sacrificing, I'm willing to bet they didn't put it in the extra mile. We're gonna hit the hair dry up. Let's start working on some different brown. So I have here this melted chocolate. We're just going to get a little piece of cardboard. And that bigger brush. We're going to dab it in there and work it around. We're just going to get some different browns here because dirt is not all the same color. Something like that. Let's get one a little bit lighter there. What we'll do to get that is we're just going to get a dab of this khaki in this wet brush with this brown already in it. We're going to mix that around to make one lighter color. See that? It's a little bit lighter, but it's not game breaking on us. We're going to wipe a lot of that off. We're just going to touch it around in there, some spots. So our dirt's different colors. Wipe our brush out. Something nasty in my brush. Okay. Now we need to lighten up this altar. So we're going to get a medium gray. This is called Pavement. It's one of those cheapy paints. We're going to get that and we're going to get it all over the brush. And we'll wipe some of that off. And we're just going to kind of drag it along in some of these spots and lighten up this altar. We're going to try not to get it on our fabric if we can help it, okay? You're not pushing down hard and getting it in all the cracks. You're just kind of getting the surface area. And hit it a couple times so you're happy with how light it got. For everybody, it's going to be different. Use that same color and hit your rocks a little bit. Lighten them up some. Okay. Now let's get a lighter gray for the rocks. This is called Country Gray. And we're just going to get a dab of this. And make a lighter color again. Wipe a lot of it off. And we're just going to touch the top parts of the rocks. Grab any features that we want to grab. Just make those look a little nicer. And then we're going to hit the corners of our altar. Just dragging it down and around. Just kind of hit that and lighten it up a little bit more on the edges. If you get this lighter color on the brown, that's okay, because we're going to come back and lighten up that brown in a second. Something like that. It's starting to look good. All right. Well, we want to lighten up that brown. So let's get, I think we should go back and get that first color we used, that nutmeg or whatever it was. We should get a dab of that nutmeg here on a brush. And then get a dab of this khaki. Make a lighter color. Mix it around real good. It's a little bit light, but that's all right. If you wipe enough of it off, it'll be okay. Let's drag that around this cloth and see what it does. Give it kind of a more of a worn effect. If you get a little bit on your knife on this part, it's not going to kill you. It's starting to look good though. Now I think that I kind of want this to be more of a reddish brown, but it's so late. It's okay. It's too late now. I'm not going back. Then I'm going to get that same tan. I'm just going to lighten up my rock a little bit with it. Lighten up my big stone for my altar. Starting to look decent, I think. I think we got it, kids. All right. Let's handle business. And by handle business, I mean let's paint this handle of this knife. And then, since that's not super noticeable, we're going to come back when that's dry. We're going to hit that with like a really light bone color. Let's worry about our blade of our knife. Keep craft paint. Metallic. You might not want that at full strength. And just drag that along the blade, catching some of the spots. The idea is not to hit it perfectly, or this will be ridiculously shiny. All right. Whoosh the broosh. We're at about 25 minutes here. So this looks like with a couple seconds of prep, you can have a pretty nice... All right, we're going to do this in 2 steps. The first step is we're going to hit it with a skeleton bone. This is a miniature paint, but it's right here, and I'm trying to get this going. So we're going to get that same brush we just used, suck moisture out of it, leave a little bit in there. You can do it with your mouth like I do if you want. Wipe a lot of that off. And I want this handle to look like it might be bone. So we're going to sort of paint it, but not perfectly, with this bone color. Not perfectly. We're not going to hit every little spot. Okay. Starting to look lighter. Now we're going to get this mummy robes, which is even a little bit lighter than that. It's an off-white. We're going to leave that, get a little dip of this, get it in the brush and leave it in there. And then we're going to get a little dip of that. We're going to lighten this up. Not too light though. Oh shoot, I used way too much. Okay, now we're making a mess. Good job, guys. You're making a mess. There, and then we're going to take this and we're going to wipe a lot of that out. Then we're just going to come over top of it and touch the high spots. And lighten that up so it's pretty noticeable now that there's a knife sitting there. Let's come around and hit the sides a little bit, lighten those up too. All right, we could do something cool at this point. We could put blood. Now, I'm not a big fan of blood on this kind of stuff. And in this situation, I'm not even sure how I would make it look realistic. So if you're a blood person, let me know in the comments how you would do the blood. Maybe hop on Discord and give me a class. But I can't do blood on this without being worried about messing it up. So let's go to the next step, which is getting some flock on here. And we're going to do one other thing now that I think about it. Let's get some ivy green, which is this color I really like. Let's get a really small brush. And let's get this crack and get some of this green like it's coming up from the ground. And then we'll splash it around on the ground a little bit and get it in some of these little holes and such and make a trail like it traveled there. And you probably won't ever see this. This is really small. This is a tiny little thing that I'm doing, but you might see it. It might look cool. It might look like there's a little bit of moss on here or something. Something, just a little something. Okay. Something like that. Just a little bit of green here and there, just to give it some different color. All right. We need to get a stiff, cheap brush, something really cheap. I have one that I like to use that I have cut the tip off of. Let's get a little dab of glue. Oh, we already got glue. I'm a crackhead and a half. All right, let's put that glue back. Let's get some glue and make sure you're getting it into the cracks and anywhere you want to have some grass. And mind you, you're probably not going to have an enormous amount of grass right up where everybody stands. And this is about the size that you could put a miniature in here, mostly. So, we're just getting some glue. Not real thick, just enough to grab some flock. And we can use the cheap flock for this. This is my homemade sawdust flock. It's sawdust and I think maybe some seasonings of some sort, but mostly sawdust. And I don't want that string of long on there. You just want to kind of grab that crap so it doesn't get on it. Don't go past the edges too much. Dab it down. Alright, so that's what we came up with. Pretty easy craft. Took us about 30 minutes. This is Doom. You've been watching Dungeons and Doom Biscuit. Check out the website. Check out the Discord. Find out how to get a free miniature. Thanks for watching.